In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Hunter for the Black Series 6-inch line, based upon its appearance from the very end of the Clone Wars series and Season 1 of the Bad Batch. So if you've been on the channel for a really long time, or if you went back and looked at some of my earlier videos, I did review Echo almost 2 years ago at this point. It was shortly after he was initially released. And up until then, I haven't reviewed any of the other Black Series Bad Batch characters. So I figured now that is the season for the Bad Batch again, with the premiere of Season 3, which at the time I'm recording this video just premiered earlier today. It's about time I knock out the rest of the crew, minus Omega. I don't have Omega. I'm not a big fan of Omega. Perhaps I'll get her at some point. But I kind of look at the Bad Batch as, I like to look at the core crew, between the 4 or 5 of them, either as how we see them at the end of the Clone Wars, or that that very first episode of the Bad Batch series. That's kind of what I think of. Having a kid for along for the ride, it just doesn't make sense. And I think Omega, to me, she just doesn't seem like a necessary character. But like I said, perhaps I'll get her at some point, and then I'll be sure to review her on the channel. So for Hunter here, he's the only one that's in the vintage collection so far. Now we'll bring him out here. I did review him on the channel the summer of 2023, and it's pretty much an exact replica of one another. There are some slight differences, like I think there's some battle damage and things like that noted on the TBC figure here. His armor on the Black Series looks a little bit cleaner, at least on the helmet. And there's some extra scrapes here and there, I guess. Overall, same exact action figure. So if you see my review of this figure, you kind of know what you're getting into on this one. So Hunter, he's probably, I mean, I like all 4 or 5 of the main core of the Bad Batch characters, between Hunter, Crosshair, Tech, Wrecker, and Echo. I think Hunter has a little bit of distinction about him. I mean, he's basically the Rambo of Star Wars now at this point. Overall, I think he's an interesting character. I like a lot of the accessories he has, and I like the design he has. What more can I say about this, though? I guess I could talk a little bit about the Bad Batch series in general. I haven't actually seen the initial episodes of Season 3 so far, but I did read some highlights of them after the premiere. And I basically know what happens in the story, so I'm not sure what to think of it so far. The Bad Batch up to this point, there's been some episodes that really knock it out of the park and are great hits, and then there's a lot of wasted potential. I wouldn't say there's bad episodes out there, but again, a lot of wasted potential. It's a shame that the series had to go the way it did. I think the concept is there. It's a brilliant concept, and I think it could have been as big of a hit as the Clone Wars even, if they took the entire series in a different direction or worked at it from a different angle. But unfortunately, it didn't happen, and it seems like in Season 3 it's going to kind of continue that trend. I'm sure there's going to be some hit episodes here and there. We know that Commander Wolf is going to come back, and Fennec Shan's going to make an appearance. Of course, Rex. Hopefully we'll see Cody again. Hopefully we'll see Gregor again. And of course, the Asajj Ventress is going to show up at some point. But overall, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of filler episodes here and there where it's like, we're down to the last few episodes of the entire series and we can't afford to waste any time. But I just hope they wrap everything up fine. But after the end of Season 3 here, I doubt there's going to be a whole lot to really say about the series at all. And probably within a year or two, it's just going to fade away to memory for most people. And then, of course, people will look back on the Clone Wars series, and then anyone who's new to that, they'll probably go, oh, there's this series called The Bad Batch that was a spin-off to it. I didn't realize that. And, of course, people will probably sit down and watch it and be like, this didn't live up to expectations, unfortunately. Quite frankly, I think the best episode of the Bad Batch series so far was the initial pilot episode from Season 1. I think that was a great way to show off a lot of characters, a lot of good action, a lot of good character development. It was just kind of like seeing the Bad Batch at their purest form, I guess. And also the Clone Wars series that they appeared in. I think those were excellent as well. Uh, but other than that, those series of episodes are pretty much the only highlights of it. Everything else has just been at best. Even the Commander Cody episode, as good as that was, unfortunately has been a letdown. Of course, there's Commander Mayday as well. Fortunately, we're not going to see any more of him, but that is what it is. Let's just go ahead and take a closer look at Hunter here. So, if I recall correctly, I think this is one of the very last Black Series action figures that was still $19.99 at the time. And unfortunately, this has been a very hard action figure to get hold of between him and Crosshair. They're extremely high in demand now, especially. I actually got this, I think, in 2022, if I recall correctly. But this was before the price for Hunter really blew up. Unfortunately, they were in low supply because this was all during the lockdown stuff, and I think the quantities for them just weren't mass produced, and then they didn't make their way around. It's kind of funny, between him and Crosshair, they weren't really in demand at all, and you could find them pretty easily online. Nobody really found them in stores, but you can find them online for like $20 or $25, no problem. And everyone's like, yeah, don't worry about it. And I think after the Bad Batch series was going on, and then it started getting good with some episodes, and it was like, oh, but everyone wanted Hunter and Crosshair all of a sudden. And Tech and Wrecker have been readily available and on clearance even. So overall, nice design. He has a little bit of that Republic Commando look going for him. Obviously, his body is reutilized for the Republic Commandos for Delta Squad. The only thing that's really different is maybe the shoulder pads are a little bit different. And the helmet. Even the backpack here is the exact same. This time he's all in gray, or dark gray. It's a nice helmet design. It's pretty much the exact same thing as the 3 3/4 inch one. I think this one's a little bit wider though. This one's a little bit narrower. But for the most part, it's the same. Let's go ahead and pop his helmet off. So it's a pretty good head sculpt. I have seen the new Season 2 Mercenary Gear Hunter head compared side by side with this one. This one seems to have a little bit more of a glossy look to it. Mine really doesn't look bad at all, but I have noticed that comparison between the two figures is that the newer one has a little bit more of a matte finish, I guess, while this one's supposed to be more glossy. But it looks pretty good, spot on to the character. He has that face paint on one side, he has his bandana there, skull. It's tied up in the back there. Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same as this one here. Yeah, I think even the Black Series one has a little bit more of a glossy finish from the TBC one here. Helmet fits pretty good over his head, no problems at all. And it does a good job of hiding his head. It's not like any chin or is shown out on the side. In the back here, you'll see a little bit of his hair showing, but it's not that big of a deal. In terms of his articulation, he is super articulated. He has the double ball joint the head, basically. He does have the hinge shoulders, which the shoulder pads being attached to the torso here allows for that extra flexibility. It does have a hinge at the elbow there. Goes a little past 90 degrees, I would say. Yeah, hinge wrist. This one goes in and out. And this one goes up and down. So nice joint at the torso there, and hinge tips, swivel at the thigh, and hinge knees and rocker ankles. You've seen my reviews of the Republic Commandos. This is the exact same thing. In terms of his weapons and accessories, he does come with the Republic Commando blaster, which still undersized, but it doesn't look as bad with Hunter here compared to the actual Delta Squad. We don't really think of the Bad Batch as Republic Commandos anyway, usually. So him having a slightly smaller blaster, you can leave that to the imagination and think, oh, you know, he's got a unique model or something like that. Does have his signature knife, which fits well in his hand, as you can see. Looks pretty good. It does have some yellow etched in it. Let's see here. Yeah, it's like some type of design or something. And you can't fit that inside the sheath there. Fits pretty good. Let's see here. Normally I don't keep the knife in the sheath because sometimes it can get stuck in there, and I have heard some people say, like Wrecker especially, with his on his leg, sometimes it gets stuck in there and then people pull theirs out and then the blade rips off the actual handle and knife there. Then he does come with a DC-17 blaster pistol, which it's nice for them to include that, but he doesn't have the holster, unfortunately. Crosshair does have a holster though. They did the same thing with the TBC figure here. Kind of disappointing. Even if they didn't do a regular holster, you think they would have done a plug or something on his leg where you can have it like this, or maybe something like a hip holster or a back holster or something on his backpack even, just to be able to hold all his accessories. But that's not the case. So he does have the 99 and the shoulder pads there. There's a skull. There's a lot of dents and scuffs and things like that all around. And he stands pretty good on his own. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all I can tell you about Hunter here. So would I recommend him for your collection? At the prices he's going for these days, probably not. If you can find him for a good deal and you really want him, I would say yes, he's a solid action figure. If you have the TVC one, the 6-inch one is an exact replica, basically. Just some minor paint differences here and there. Like I said, I think the helmet on this one's a little bit wider compared to this one, a little bit narrower, but that's something that most people are never going to really care about, probably. But it's a solid action figure all around. Hopefully Hasbro does an archive release at some point. Him and Crosshair definitely deserve one, especially right now. But who knows at this point. Tech and Wrecker are still readily available. You could always get the Hunter Mercenary gear, which is, at this time of this video, is still more readily available and more affordable. Like I said, I think the head sculpt on that one's a little bit better compared to this one. But I'm sure most people want Hunter in his more traditional commando armor here compared to his mercenary gear. They want someone looking a little more professional, I guess. And that's the case for me. I don't really plan on getting any of the mercenary gear, Bad Batch clones so far. Perhaps at some point, but right now it's not a priority for me. Like I said, I wouldn't overpay for it. If you can find it for less than $50, I would say you're doing all right. Perhaps you can hold out for an archive release, but who knows? Take your chances on that one. Glad to have them in the collection. And I will show off the rest of the squad here next. And then at some point we'll do a wrap-up video showing them all together. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support. And check out the links in the description if you haven't done so already. As always, thanks for watching.